Thank you for joining our webinar today from everywhere of the world. We're very happy to see you here. Tonight, this webinar is co-hosted by Manus and Similarweb. We want to introduce you how to turn data into decisions faster and also smarter with this new integration. So for today's session, we're going to introduce what Similarweb data is, how it is collected, why it is reliable, and also as a Manus user, how it can help you conduct better research, along with some other tips, how to do creative works like building a dashboard, a Chrome extension, or like shareable agent skills. So I'm Bonnie from Manus, and I'll be joined by Christian from Similarweb later to tell more about Similarweb. And for the new friends who haven't used Manus before, I want to make a quick introduction of Manus. So Manus is the world's first general purpose AI agent launched last year. So as an AI agent, as many of you might already know, it is easy to use as you can prompt it in natural language and it breaks down the tasks for you and do everything as it plans. So it does not only brainstorm, it also delivers. And for Manus, it is purely cloud first. So it means that every Manus session actually come with its own sandbox on the cloud, and you're leveraging thousands of the computing resources while you prompt Manus. And with this, you don't need any technical background to interact with your terminal, and also you don't need to buy another hardware to use the agent. Also, we have desktop and also mobile. So it means that even when you commute or like anytime you have any idea, for example, you want to build something, when traveling, you can just like drop the idea like 2 minutes and build a live prototype on your phone. And another huge strength for Manus is the ultra long context that it handles different formats of the things, like all within one session. So for example, like if you are an investor or an analyst, you see a very long report and you want to extract, the insights from 100 pages of the PDF, you can just drop in Manus, get the insights, and ask Manus to go online to reference all different like kind of data. And then also like you see what companies mentioned like in a report, you use deep research and also maybe Similarweb data to identify the high growth company. And all of these things can be done within one session because of the long context capability. And the last thing I want to mention is about the to use. So it's also very relevant to what we're going to talk about today, the integration, the connector. And also more beyond that is because Manus has its own computer. So it can use a lot of tools also like from online. For example, that when you are building something, you don't have to start from scratch because it can already like use the things existing on GitHub and just like help you optimize it. So, like about this integration, there are two ways that you can use Similarweb in Manus, and we're gonna break down the endpoints and also how to use like later use cases. But now, like a brief introduction, there are two ways. One is the native data integration that you can use as a paid user, paid Manus user. You don't need an additional Similarweb subscription, and you can use up to like 20,000 credits per month for analysis. And the second type is the MCP. So if you need a large amount of the analysis per month, so I think this one might work for you better as you can plug in your own Similarweb key and unlock more endpoints. Yeah. So let's talk about like how this partnership gonna help you. We all know that AI is pretty good at analysis, but as the old saying goes, that garbage in, garbage out. So like when we have the good data, the analysis is gonna like turn good as well, and that's why we wanna get partnered with Similarweb and provide you with the access to this like the first class market intelligence data. So with Manus and also Similarweb, you can turn the unstructured data into insights within minutes. I believe like many of you guys who have like done analysis before need to do, data cleaning. get the spreadsheet, analyze the data, put it into reports, copy and then summarize and send to the team members. But now, like within minutes, everything is done like within minutes. And the second thing is that you have multiple databases and you also have your internal knowledge base and also the external sources that you need to reference. So with Manus, you are not only research based on one database. So everything is within one place and you don't need to switch the tools. It means that, for example, you have the private database like Similarweb, but you also like need to go to, external like news or other industry reports that it can both go to public data and also your private data to check everything and get you very comprehensive report beyond the data set. And the most important thing is that it's perfect for every person because it's so easy to use that you can just build everything through prompting. And Manus is a generalist, but with the data you need and with your skills, it actually turns into specialist within minutes. So for investors, you can identify the high growing companies and verify the traffic with the evaluation and everything. For the operators, you can monitor your competitors like closely with this data, and also for marketers that you can look deep into the keywords and also optimize your strategy based on the insight. And before we talk about the use case, so data is the most important thing, and we want to have a deep dive into the data. So let's welcome Christian from Similarweb to talk more about the data.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. Thanks again for everyone joining. I'm Christian Kearns. I sit on the data strategy teams here at Similarweb, really just partnering with our customers and our partners to get data into the hands of everyday marketers to understand insights and apply them to real business problems. So our main mission here is to take the expansive data set that we have and take our trusted data and help everyone win their respective markets. If we go back in time a couple of years, maybe 10 years, we started out as a web intelligence company, primarily looking at web analytics in the browser and understanding perhaps what keywords people are searching for to drive traffic to those websites. Since then, we have expanded to meet market needs and customer needs, jumping into app intelligence, so understanding app engagement, things like daily active users, monthly active users, ratings and reviews, e-commerce data. So think about product level data on Amazon, brand level data, category data. So really telling a rich, providing rich insights across e-commerce. We also support sellers and lead generation and lead enrichment. So taking our web and digital ecosystem data and synchronizing it around companies so that people can get the full picture of a digital performance or digital first businesses opportunity. And then lastly, as Bonnie mentioned, we also support investors with our data sets. So if I was a private equity firm that wanted to invest in Uber, for example, maybe I'd want to look at app downloads or completed or booked rides, for example, and understand how that translates into real business outcomes. So the benefit of partnering with partners like Manus is these are data sets that obviously serve specific business needs, but using different data points across these different use cases, you can really tell a holistic and rich story and drive business outcomes leveraging the holistic data set as opposed to maybe just one or two of these. So within those data sets I've mentioned, obviously you can double click and get more refined metrics and tie those to specific KPIs. For the web data I mentioned, we cover over 100 million different websites, and that's with traffic and engagement data, things like total visits, unique visits, the keyword data. I know some folks had asked about how is brand visibility within LLMs impacting performance. That's all data that we have. Within the app space, we cover over 4 million different apps, again, covering some of the metrics that I mentioned that allow you to understand audience reach and engagement over time and stickiness and platform adoption. Again, we also have that data synchronized around companies. So rather than looking at a single web entity, we can group those into companies to tell a holistic story on that specific company's performance from a digital perspective, as well as pulling in some firmographic and partnership data to enrich that. And then the retail analytics piece, we cover over 230 million different product SKUs across, again, product brand and category roll-ups to help e-commerce professionals understand the market and where they can win compared to some of their competitors. On top of that, we do have some custom reporting as well that allows you to do more traditional research like brand health tracking, market share analysis, category insights. And again, that can be done via consulting or data feeds or partnerships with partners like Manus. All this is supported by 10 years of experience in historical data. We operate and have data across 190 different countries, supporting 210 categories. So all those metrics are great. Those offers are awesome, but obviously, as Bonnie mentioned, the data is really worth its weight in gold. The data moat is really what people are after these days in order to tell a rich story and have something that they can believe in and sell to others. So from a data collection perspective, that's on the left-hand side. I'll primarily focus on that. 2 and 3 in the middle are really our proprietary models that help us model up the data that we're collecting into something that is representative of the population that we're looking at. And that's what leads into the 100 million websites covered, the 4 million apps that we track and cover, and then those product SKUs I mentioned. But from a data collection perspective, our primary data collection is through our contributory network, which is a collection of consumer behavior across device. So that's both desktop and mobile, that allows us to tell a rich picture of web and app interactions. All of that data is supported as well by partnerships that we have. We also pull in public data, some of the public data that Bonnie had mentioned, and then we also have a learning set that is built of first-party analytics that's shared with us that we use to modify and correct our estimations for scale and trend accuracy over time, so that what we represent within our data, we know we are confident that we're telling an accurate apples to apples story across competitive sets, categories, products, which is really what allows you to optimize both strategically and tactically for real business outcomes. So what's the difference between Similarweb data and some other providers is we're using real user behavior. It's not down to the person. We wouldn't show you one user's behavior, but we aggregate it up into aggregations, removing things like PII and making sure that everything's GDPR compliant. The scale of our sample and our contributory network is quite large. We're talking of tens of millions. That allows us to be statistically representative and provide the granularity that generates actionable tactical insights, as opposed to just high level overviews. So different ways that you can interact and partner with us. Obviously, we have our own SaaS platform. I kind of talked through the different modules at the beginning, spanning from web intelligence to app intelligence. We also are primarily a data company. Again, our data is really what makes us successful. So you can purchase our data directly, but the reason why we're all here today is the integrations and the ability to pull data within your workflows or within other workflows and aggregate them with data sets that you already have to tell a rich story enhanced by competitive intelligence, which could be done through the integration or through our MCP connector. So Bonnie touched on this a little bit. This is just a quick snippet from the Manus platform, but this is how you can access our data. So Manus has access via direct integration to a subset of our data that every Manus customer would have access to, which is the bottom in the blue, or the green rather. And then up top is where, if you are a Similarweb customer or subscriber, you can drop in your API key and get access to the incremental data that's available via our MCP, which allows you to do additional insights and pull a larger scale amount of data. Just to get a flavor for the type of metrics that we have, and in subsequent slides, we can go through some of the questions that you can answer with these. On the left-hand side are the natively integrated metrics that we have with Manus. So things spanning from reach metrics like total visits or unique visits that help you get a sense of audience size and opportunity, all the way down to page level insights that allow you to break out product performance or line of business performance. Those data points are primarily pulled from our web intelligence and search data sets. But again, we do have opportunity to provide insights across retail, ads, Gen AI, app intelligence, and sales data. So the opportunity to drive business impact is really based on what you need and which data points would be most useful for the metrics you're trying to move. So we thought we'd take a quick step back and look at the metrics that are natively integrated that everyone has access to and provide some high level measurement frameworks, as well as maybe tie some business questions to what those might be. So when we think about the metrics like total visits and unique visits, I briefly touched on it on the prior slide. Questions we might answer with that is what is my my overall performance compared to competitors? How many consumers are visiting my site versus my competitive set? What is my unique audience for my site versus my competitors? So really understanding that high level engagement and where the opportunity lies. You also have access to geography distribution. So for those trying to understand market expansion, where a competitor might be expanding and capturing traffic, or where you might be under indexing compared to a category, that certainly sheds some light in terms of where those opportunities might be. Engagement metrics like bounce rate are super important for understanding your ability to engage a consumer once they get to site. And if you think about different ways you can pivot that metric, bounce rate might be the highest level of view you have towards conversion. So if someone's coming to your site and then leaving without doing anything else, that might be a strong indicator that the likelihood to convert versus somebody else or another competitor is lower or higher, depending on what that yields. Traffic channels. This is one of my favorites. And I think it's obviously very important for marketers. This allows you to look at the competitive acquisition strategy or a categories acquisition strategy across marketing channels. So if we think about if a site is getting organic search traffic, like are people going there organically, or is a competitor or partner just paying for traffic? Is that sustainable? Maybe, maybe not. But both of those examples would lead to different tactical outcomes that you could apply in either short-term or long-term strategic decisions. A few additional ones, keyword opportunities and domain keywords. This allows you to understand keyword specific performance. So maybe some low hanging fruit of how you could capture incremental traffic based on keywords you might not be optimized for. Or if you just want to understand something like brand salience or brand awareness, if people are searching for my brand versus getting there through non-branded keywords, that's an insight in itself. And the benefit of having multiple metrics through the Manus integration is you could take something like the direct traffic from a marketing perspective, so someone going directly to your site, and then look at, for example, branded traffic and come up with a brand strength score compared to competitors. So you can build combination or composite scoring across these metrics to tell a more holistic story. Referral traffic. I know some folks had asked about the pass through from LLMs and brand visibility. Something like referrals can give you insight into how many people are coming from a specific site or category of sites. So you can uncover partnership opportunities or areas of weakness where you could do potentially better. And then the last piece I think is often overlooked, but there's the landing pages and the popular pages view. And while that just sounds like a paged view, what that allows you to unlock is the ability to look at product performance, line of business performance, and really slice and dice the different content views of a partner or competitor to understand that opportunity. So if I was a large bank, I'm just going to use an enterprise example. I might not care about looking at chase.com or bankofamerica.com overall, but I might want to understand how the credit card pages are doing. Or if I was an e-commerce manager, maybe I want to understand what specific products within a site are driving the most interest or action. So again, the connector can be used for multiple different things. quick analysis, just a quick hit. You go in there and ask a question, get your answer, and you're off. Or you can build ongoing reporting and dashboards that you revisit frequently. I have an example dashboard that I put together using Manus and Similarweb data. And the best part about it is it's an iterative process. You heard Bonnie talk about the long context and being able to go back in conversations. It really gives you the power to see what you've done and then iterate and modify to make things more actionable if you think there's better ways to look at things or visualize things. It allows you to pull in additional data and create those composite scores that I mentioned, which are taking two different metrics and pulling them together to provide more context. So again, the data and the platform can be used in different ways. So if you want to ask a broad exploratory question, that's a perfectly fine use case that can help ground you in a source of truth that then leads to more deterministic and tactical execution. So what do I mean by that? I could ask Manus, for example, to just build me a competitive dashboard that compares top banks and leave it at that. And Manus will do a lot of the heavy lifting. It will go and figure out which metrics might make the most sense to rank or pull by. Or you could go in and say, hey, could you please build me a competitive search dashboard that looks at Chase and Bank of America, breaking out paid and organic search, and then split that out by branded and non-branded. Both will obviously yield very different results, which would lead to different outcomes. But that's the beauty of the flexibility that you're afforded by using our holistic data set in combination with Manus's optimization and performance engine. So like I said, I built a quick dashboard. It's a lot of words on this slide. So I just want to ground a few things on how I built this dashboard, and I'll show you what the example looks like. But I basically prompted Manus. I said, using similar web data, please build me a competitive intelligence dashboard. I named the competitors that I wanted to look at. I then said, please cover this time frame, use US data only. And then within the dashboard, I would like these 7 breakouts. I'd like an executive summary so I can take that to my key stakeholders. And I want some key insight cards that would be quick hits that I can go in and reference relatively quickly. And then please break out the traffic trends, acquisition, which is the marketing channels, the pages, the keywords, engagement metrics, apps. And then I also, in addition to the dashboard, asked it to produce 2 written reports. That's one, the executive summary, and then the tactical readout. So after a few minutes, this is what we came back with. So it pulled top level data from a website perspective. We also got app data in there. I have the different institutions broken out in year to date views, and then from a share perspective, and then I have my high level recommendations and insights call outs that were generated using Similarweb data with Manus's workflow. I also was able to add those incremental tabs, so traffic trends, the marketing channel acquisition. And since I prompted it to make it an interactive dashboard, I have the ability to modify and hone in on specific brands to be able to do an analysis in this dashboard that I created using custom views and metrics to fit my business needs. Going beyond this, again, this was looking at maybe just overall website. I had spoken before about the power of pages. So in the left-hand side here, I again prompted Manus to build me a competitive report that broke down the larger institutions' lines of business to things like credit cards, deposits, personal loans, and then give me some of those executive summaries. So again, I'm no longer looking at the total site, but I'm looking at sub pages and understanding the unique strategies that these businesses have at attracting customers. Again, I chose the banking and finance institution. Doesn't have to be this. It could be just smaller e-commerce sites. It really can be applied to any marketer or any business use case, as long as you have the context and understand the metrics that are available. On the right-hand side, I also took, instead of taking a line of business perspective, I wanted to put on my channel owner hat and say, hey, I'm an SEO manager. I know that AEO is a big thing. I want to understand the impact that brand visibility and LLMs are having on my acquisition through traditional search. And that's what the right-hand side is. It's a live dashboard that looks at paid search and organic search aggregated with referral traffic from LLMs so that I can understand if that channel is growing, how it's impacting other channels, and then get that holistic search flow into my website so that I could better optimize from either a traditional search or lean into the agentic age that we're moving into. So I'll pass it back off to the Manus and Bonnie. Thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions, of course, just drop them in the chat.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you for showing us like what Similarweb data can do. And I saw someone like left in the comments, can Manus redo the dashboard that you just shared? And yes, so Christian built all the dashboards within Manus, and the prompt has already been shared by a PDF file, like sent to your email. Used to register at Luma. So you can check out the file and also use the same prompt on your own and try to replicate the dashboard. And so Christian has talked about, how the data is very valuable and what insights can be extracted by different endpoints. And I want to show you guys more about, how to use medicine in a more efficient way. And you can be more creative about like how you use the data. So now like we can do a quick Manus interface tour for like those that are not familiar. So in the middle is the chat box, the prompt window that you can input anything, and at the bottom is all the templates and the features. And this toggle is for switching between different modes. We suggest 1.6 max as it is best for the complex tasks. And on the left-hand side panel is where you see tasks, and also you can go to plugins. Here is where we have all the connectors, the data integration, and also the skills, as you can see. So if we type Similarweb here, you will see like different blocks. On the top, the connectors means the MCP that you need to bring your own key. And in the middle is a skill that we have already like preset for the users to use, but you can also build your own one. And on the bottom is the integrated data integration that you don't need another key. You just like prompt Manus to do so, and we will show you guys like how to do it. And right below the plugins is the schedule task where you can do a lot of automation. So maybe that you can set up, for example, monthly report like based on similar web report, similar web data, as like that's what we do like internally, and get a monthly competitor report. And we we can go to projects as well. Okay, now like we showed the how to set it up like a little bit more. So in the project, actually, it's a quite powerful tool if you're gonna like use, a lot of tools like with your friend, with your team members, and also share the output. So here you can share the skills, share the connectors, share all the instructions, and so for everyone, like when you do the analysis, that they share the same context, that you don't need to, rate prompt, and also like align internally again. And if we do a simple task here to try to trigger the Similarweb data. And as you can see that you just mentioned in the prompt saying that use Similarweb API to do blah, blah, blah. Here we do analysis on managed traffic. So when you see the card showing up with the Similarweb logo, it means that the data source is triggered. And for this one, it doesn't give me the data, but also return with the chart. And if we check the usage on the right side, that you can um, check how much credits like consume like for one task. And for this analysis, like on the past 3 months, it's around 200 Manus credits. Yep. And um, for like some of the tricks that might be like helpful for all the analysts or like people that need to read reports, draft reports. The first trick we want to share is that you can turn your workflow like into a skill. So for example, like for us, we have our internal competitor traffic analysis skill that we like design a framework. What we want to look at is not only about the traffic. It might also like come to, what is the growth momentum, the moves, and also like the product launch and everything like within the skill. And also we set it to the project only. So it means that everyone within the project can use it. And also like for all the tasks are not in the project will not be affected by the skill. And another trick is um, you can connect it with your other tools. For example, your messaging tools where you talk to the team, like share the updates, or like where you store all of your, the documents, the knowledge base, whether it's Google Doc, Google Drive, or Notion. So for us, we save a lot of things on Notion. So we do analysis in Manus and ask Manus to save on Notion. And also because we know that we always need, a heads up, a shorter paragraph to send in the messaging app. So I also like ask Manus to drop a paragraph to highlight the report and attach Notion doc and also like send through the Slack connector. So it's all like within one session. And as I mentioned before, the Manus can do a lot of automation like schedule tasks. So you can literally ask Manus to check if the data is updated and also update you with the latest data. For example, tell Manus to run every 10th of the month to check if the data is updated and also if it is, and then send you the report based on your framework. And so, beside these two skills, the best thing is this can all be done like in one session. So I didn't do like all of these in separate tasks. I do all of these in one. I give it a sample PDF and it's like multiple pages, very long with a lot of number, and I asked it to turn this report into a skill based on a framework like shared in the report, and also like ask it to um, do a scheduled task so like get the latest report and update us once it's refreshed. And manage just go to Similarweb data to check all the endpoints and see if it's available. Um, and also use the skill creator now. And later it will like return with the tab with a skill that you can add to your project directly and also send everything as I've requested like in the Slack, and also link the full Notion doc like accessible, and it's even like listed on the where I've requested, yeah, within the database. So you can try to build a lot of things, like with Similarweb data and also all the feature of Manus. Like it's not only for, an analyst, it's also like for founders for different industries that whenever like you want to compare like multiple companies, want to do some analysis that you can try to convert your way of thinking like into a skill and use it like for future research. And the last use case that I want to share is about developing some internal tools that your team might benefit. So we all have some like internal tools, purchased from some other like providers, but sometimes we can just like build our own. So what we do, it's kind of like a Chrome extension plus a dashboard that Christian has already shared. What we want is we want a report every time when we see an interesting website. We know about, what the company does, what is the product, what is the recent, marketing moves of them, and also what is the traffic like. And is the traffic organic? Is it paid? And what is a channel? Yeah. So what we do is we have a Chrome extension. You can add the website directly. And also here, as you can see, it comes with all the reports, like on the web page, and you can export it. And also like come with the um, login system that to make sure that this is only available to your team or your clients. Yeah, so here is the real process of building it. You can see that we've input a lot of things, a lot of requests on the format, the user journey, the data that it gonna like pull out, and it go to Similarweb. It get me like the extension zip file and also like the website it built. And here you can see all the code files is written by Manus. Um, Also, it's like doing a schedule task like in the middle for the data refreshment. And later, so here is the real website is live and it has access control. And um, yeah, and you can see like for each website on this portal like comes with exactly what I want, the company like introduction and a visualization of the data. And you can even export the PDF in uh, even on brand one that if you want so. So like it can be shared like with external like users as well. And here, for example, I can input directly like by prompting input a website domain, or I can go to the web page to add it like through the Chrome extension. Just here, like we go to the web page and also click the add and analysis, and that will be like triggered back in the portal. So there are a lot of like creative ways that really can help us like improve, the productivity of the work, and also at the same time integrate the data to make it not only a AI web page, but also with a real insights to share. Yep. So that's what we want to share with everybody that maybe that you can start building like today, like using the data and also using more interesting features of Manus. And I saw there are a lot of questions in the Q&A session, and also we've also received a lot of questions before the event. So now the floor is for questions. I'll pass it to Similarweb team to answer a few, and then I will also like answer a few of the questions.
Sure. If there's any live questions, we're happy to take them, or we can go through the chat. I saw that there was a question regarding on if what was available and what wasn't via Manus. There is a subset that you can have access to, which is included in the deck that we can share. That is available to anyone, and a query up to a certain a credit amount, and then there is also for Similarweb customers the API connector that grants access to a larger data set and incremental credit allocation. I see a question around minimizing credit consumption. I think you can prompt to understand what the lift might be. Um, so it kind of depends. In the example that I gave in when was going through some of the slides, the more general the question, the more open it is for the research to be done in the background. So if you ask more specific questions around specific metrics and leave less room for interpretation, it'll be a more direct API call to a specific metric, which might limit going and querying a number of different endpoints. And for example, if rather than saying, "Can you please give me the top 20 sites in this category?" Which, if that's your business need, that's great. And you say, "Can you please give me the results for these 5 sites?" It also reduces some of the thinking that needs to be done. Any other questions?
Some people has asked about the AEO related question. Like, I guess that could be very interesting. Like, do you want to talk more about it?
Sure. In terms of how we would look at AEO, so you can look at it a few different ways. So you can look at the impact on traditional search because you guys obviously have access to the keyword data within Manus. The referring domains as well is also something that you can get. So in the third example that I shared, I looked at traditional SEO and AEO to understand the dynamic between the two channels. So pulling from the traffic channels that looks at obviously the acquisition channels, then pulling from keyword data, looking at organic and paid, and then also looking at referrers. That's something that you can do that's already included within the Manus integration. But there are also endpoints and data that we have that are available via the MCP that aren't included in the direct integration that have more visibility scoring and things like that that more directly answer some of the those questions. I see a question about how to prompt. I think that if you want to specifically call Similarweb, it's better to say using Similarweb data or something like that so that it knows to reference that first and foremost. But if you did ask broader questions as well, it would, Bonnie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would use all available options to kind of answer that question, which may or may not be Similarweb data. So the options are there, but if you direct it more specifically at Similarweb, it'll make sure that it's inclusive of that data set or our data set.
Yep, that's true. And also like for each endpoint, it does like has a fixed cost. So I'll share it later like in the chat box. So you can check like, you can specify the endpoints that you're gonna use so it will be like more specific. And also another way like to prompt better. I guess you can use the chat mode of Menace because that one doesn't consume any credits and you can do the ideation first and maybe like solve a lot of questions that don't need to go to Similarweb at the beginning and then only leave the data part like to um the Similarweb.
Awesome. So I know also Pablo's going through and answering some of the chat. So if we didn't get to your question, we'll be answering in the chat, but I'll pass to Bonnie and team for Amanda specific questions.
Yep, sure. Well, thank you, Christian. I saw a lot of questions about like how to, you know, build like or use it like for economic research or like build their own signal. So I guess you have the resources that you want to refer to, like in your domain. So what you can do is actually you just tell Manus this is the websites you will go to, like for finding any the signals or like the index that will going up or going down, and what is your logic. And Manus might not be perfect like in one run, but you can fine tune it throughout. And also you can just adjust like the frequency you want to monitor it. So maybe like per minute or like per half hour, like to run it again. And so it can get all the signals and also like for a report to you like based on that. And yeah, some other people asked about like how to build websites, how to build your own like AI agent. So it can be like very intuitive, like within Menace. Actually, you just like prompt in your natural language. Normally, you just tell Menace what you want, but you have to be precise. So you have to tell Menace, okay, for example, I want a CRM for like my company and what does my company do and what is my need. I envision the user journey be like blah blah blah. And also like within I want the AI features to be plugging at certain interfaces, and through all the ideation that a man as well get everything for you. And like if you want to build your own agent, I also highly recommend you to check out Manus API because it gives you flexibility that you can plug in the Manus capability to any product that you are building, and it comes with your memory. So, for example, like the dashboard I mentioned, actually, I built it within a project, and for that project, I have all my um like the knowledge, the websites I want to like use, and also the skill like for creating like a dashboard in the UI I want, and also with the API key. So what actually works is that Manus API will have all the context like within that project, and you can just it basically like very personalized. So the AI agent might not be just like an agent. It can just be like a project or even like a task like within Manus. It's very fun to play around, and I will drop the API document in the Q&A section as well. And also, like someone asked about like whether the slides will be shared. Yes, we will share it on the Learn with Manus dot space that page. And Joe has already like mentioned in the comment. So we upload our past webinar slides there as well. So you can go there and check the content. Yeah, and um. This as I saw like Sky mentioned that if you're building a dashboard like for others to use, so does it use your own credits or somebody access it and use it? It's actually like consuming your credits if you're not setting up, for example, a separate um, a separate like box for users to input their API key. If you're sharing it with your team members, the way I suggest is that you can have like a box for everyone to fill in their API, and also everybody can be within the same project. So you have the same context when the instruction is like is prompted in Manus. It doesn't like go wrong or like missing the connector or anything. And then um and you build up the dashboard, and when everything can go smoothly on your end, the other people like should also be fine to use it through their API, like consuming their credits. And also we are trying to like build some other way to solve this problem. So in the very near future, that this gonna be solved, that when other people use your dashboard, the credits will be consumed on them. For app enough, we do have Manus mobile version. So that's also one thing will be very helpful for the office workers or people, who like doesn't have to be by the computer like all the time. The mobile version shares the exact same feature as the web version and also the desktop. So what is the nuances? The desktop can access your local files, and for mobile, it's just like not accessing your local files and that's it. But you can also, if your laptop is open, that you can use Manus to access it. And for mobile, the website it built gonna be fully functional. It's full stack. You can preview and also launch it directly on your phone. You can build your slides. You can ask it to clean your data. Everything will be exactly the same. Yep. Let me check if there's any other questions. Yeah, I think we're close to the end of the webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, to join this session. And also, thanks so much for Christian and also to the other team members online to help with answering all the questions and pulling up this webinar. Thank you, Pavel, Ella, and also Joe. And here we have like two more webinars next week that you might feel interested. So please feel free to scan us or join. And within the prompt, um, the playbook before we send to everyone's email that you can check the prompts that Similarweb team has already like created for you guys to try. So feel free to try it like with your credits, and we can wait for you guys to build more and share more like with us. And if you are interested in contact Similarweb within the PDF, there is also like the way that you can get in touch with the team. Thank you so much, everyone.